Amigos, bienvenidos a una edición más de su podcast de noticias sobre la industria de social media, la Digital.Social. Mi nombre es Ángel Buendía, su anfitrión, Ángel BC1 en Instagram, en Threads y Ángel BC en Twitter, pero creo que eso ya no va a durar mucho. Ahorita van a entender por qué. ¿Ok? Y hoy tenemos un programa épico, especial, legendario y que va a romper un poquito con el ritmo de lo usual. Tenemos un invitado que jamás esperé que estuviera aquí en este podcast, pero va a estar y en un momentito más se los voy a presentar. Pero esto significa que voy a dar las noticias yo solito ahorita rápido, ¿ok? Porque la verdad es que fue una semana lenta en el mundo de social media. La verdad es que no hay así como que la cosa, pero hay algunas cosillas que vale la pena mencionar. Así que vamos a darle rápido. Esta noticia, no sé si... Digo, esto les debe dar idea de qué tan lento estuvo la semana. Jack Dorsey, @Jack, dice que se va de Instagram y va a poner su handle a disponibilidad. A ver quién lo agarra. La primera pregunta es, ¿Jack Dorsey estaba en Instagram? Sí, nunca escribió. De hecho, literalmente creo que jamás había escrito hasta anunciando que se despedía. Fue de las primeras 10 cuentas en la plataforma, eso sí. Ajá. Y yo no sabía, el chisme es que Kevin Systrom fue su becario en Odeo, que fue lo que dio pie a Twitter. Digo, está bueno como chisme, bueno como detalle histórico, pero pues hasta ahí. De hecho, sí lo utilizó. Decía que Dorsey lo utilizó un poquito hasta que se lo vendieron a Meta, ¿ok? Y pues ya. ¿Ok? Así que pues, si le quieren llegar o quieren intentar subastar el nombre de Jack, quieren entrarle a la subasta o a ver cómo, pues ya pueden. ¿Ok? Ahí se los dejo. Por otro lado, YouTube Music ya añadió, de hecho, una sección que se llama Samples, que sorpresa, sorpresa, es una serie de videos verticales tipo TikTok para descubrir música. Ajá. Te va a mostrar cachitos de video de música para ver si te late. La puedes agregar a playlist, la puedes agregar a tu librería de música, le puedes dar like, incluirla en shorts también, eso está padre. Ajá. Yo ya la probé, ya está disponible, la probé en YouTube Music y la casa la aprueba. Está bastante bien. Mi única semiqueja es que puedes darle like a las cosas, o sea, puedes decirle al algoritmo que te gusta, pero no puedes decirle que no te gusta, lo cual se presta a que se tarde un poquito en entender qué es lo que te tiene que mostrar y qué no. Haz de cuenta, unas 15 canciones que me mostró, 5 o 6 fueron así, pero perfectas, adelante, buenísimo. Unas 5 sí fueron de ¿por qué estás mostrándome esto? ¿Por qué me estás faltando al respeto de esta forma? Y otras fueron así, el resto fueron como X, ¿okay? O sea, es un buen porcentaje de bateo. Pero sí hace falta, creo, en cómo decirle claramente al algoritmo, no me muestres esto. ¿Ok? Pero está padre, está padre. Es otra copia de TikTok, pero ya sabemos que el video vertical de forma corta es lo de hoy, ¿no? Así que, de nuevo, puedo decir que no es una mala ejecución, no es una mala integración. Así que esto lo pueden ver ahí en YouTube Music. Por otro lado, esta noticia no sé si me hace feliz o no, ¿ok? WhatsApp va a permitir que ya subamos imágenes en alta definición. ¿Okay? La calidad de las imágenes va a ser muchísimo mejor y se espera que pronto suceda lo mismo con los videos. ¿Por qué tengo opiniones mezcladas al respecto de esto? Primero que nada porque, o sea, el plus, o sea, a favor, porque sí, la verdad es que lo que WhatsApp hacía con las imágenes de deteriorar la calidad, pues no estaba padre. Si te pasaba una foto que tú querías ver, la verdad es que no se veía tan bien. Sí era un problema. Quizá en la mayoría de los casos no se notaba, pero en muchas situaciones sí era notorio que la calidad se degradaba. Eso es la parte buena. La parte mala es que esto, de alguna manera, podría dar luz verde a que WhatsApp se utilice para cosas de trabajo para las que han escuchado decir, creo que no debería usarse. Ajá. Luego me pasa que me mandan los artes vía WhatsApp. Y pues, ¿sabes qué? No, porque la calidad de nuevo es mala. Bueno, pues ahora ya no habría esa excusa. Ahora las imágenes podrían llegar en una calidad decente. Y ok, está bien Pero de nuevo, si asumimos que WhatsApp no es necesariamente el mejor lugar para andar haciendo este tipo de cosas, y menos si son cosas de trabajo, pues no sé, a lo mejor ya debería rendirme al hecho de que la gente va a usar lo que tenga enfrente, sea lo correcto, sea lo mejor o no, y pues que ahí van a estar llegando un montón de cosas. Pero bueno, al menos la calidad va a ser muchísimo, muchísimo mejor. Ajá. Y pues eso supongo que no está mal. Y video pronto también tendrá esta opción, así que, ok, bien por ti, WhatsApp. Bien por ti. Estas fueron las rápidas. Ajá, tenemos poquitas rápidas. Y ahora vámonos con las herramientas. Un artículo muy interesante en Buffer, ajá, en el blog de buffer.com, habla acerca de TikTok Analytics. Que, como cualquier cosa de Analytics, es algo que hay que checar. ¿Okay? Está muy interesante. Yo no recordaba que la versión móvil de los Analytics y la versión en escritorio es muy distinta, es bastante distinta. Y sorpresa, si estamos trabajando de manera más seria, digamos, ya estés llevando una marca y todo, pues la versión de escritorio es realmente la buena, tiktok.com/analytics. Y ahí viene un montón de información útil, de demografía, interacciones, alcance, vistas de video, vistas de perfil, contenido. Vaya, está bastante interesante. Básicamente es un poquito la misma historia, ajá, pero sorprendentemente la versión de móvil no está tan mala, ¿ok? No me parece una mala implementación, una mala ejecución de todo esto. Está bien, la verdad es que está padre, pero el punto es que sí es importante tener claro qué analíticas son las que van a importarte, cuáles son las realmente importantes, porque hay mucha información, ajá, hay mucha información y tienes que tener bien clarito qué es lo que te importa. Y sí, por supuesto que cosas como engagement, alcance, vistas totales son importantes, pero también hay un montón de cosas, ¿ok? La tasa de vistas de video, mejores posteos, demografía, vamos, se le puede sacar bastante jugo, ¿ok? Bastante jugo, pero todo empieza con conocer bien el tema de analítica. Y TikTok, la verdad es que no hace tan mal trabajo en mostrarnos información útil. Esto, obviamente, además de toda la información de las campañas. La parte pagada es otro asunto. Aquí esto es nada más de la parte orgánica, que creo que a muchos les interesa. ¿Ok? Esto está en el blog de Buffer. Y... Ay, Twitter. Ya no debería sorprenderme, pero este sí me pegó. Okay. Este sí me pegó directo en este polvoriento y cansado corazón. Y probablemente sea ya el final de la historia para mí con Twitter. Okay. Que ya hay un límite más allá del cual ya no puedo ir y probablemente ya lo alcancé. Se anunció que TweetDeck, una de las herramientas más útiles para los que usamos Twitter en serio, ahora se llama X Pro. Ay, Dios. Y va a ser un producto de suscripción. ¿Ok? Así es. Efectivamente, TweetDeck deja de estar disponible para los usuarios de a pie, normales, y solamente será un producto que esté para los usuarios de Twitter Blue. Que obviamente no voy a hacer yo. ¿Ok? Está del nada porque yo sí utilizaba TweetDeck de diario. Era uno de los tabs en mi Chrome que nunca se apagaba por las listas. Ajá, para mí el gran chiste de TweetDeck era que me permitía monitorear todas mis listas de manera rápida y era lo que me mantenía al día de todo. El hecho de que ya no exista y que lo peor de todo es que no haya un reemplazo, ¿ah?, de manera gratuita, porque obviamente con Twitter cobrando por el acceso API la tonelada de dinero, como si no quisiera que los desarrolladores hicieran cosas, pues obviamente evita que haya alguna otra alternativa de fácil acceso. Sí, hay cosas como Hootsuite, Sprout, etcétera, pero son parte de aplicaciones pagadas. Y pues, la verdad es que no voy a pagar Hootsuite nada más para eso, o Sprout nada más para eso. Así que, ay, Twitter. Que conste que en algún momento, yo mismo en este podcast, dije que si TweetDeck se volviera una opción pagada y nos dieran mejores cosas, mejoraran la aplicación, con gusto la pagaría. Pero no en estas circunstancias, ¿okay? No en este caso. ¿Okay? La verdad es que, dado todo lo que ha pasado y el estatus de la plataforma, no hay manera de que vaya a pagar esto. Está mal y lo lamento muchísimo porque ahora sí parecería que el señor Musk ya acabó de correrme. Casi es personal. No, por supuesto que no, pero creo que con esto la utilidad que Twitter tenía para mí ya se reduce o cae a un nivel que ya no lo hace tan viable. ¿Okay? Así que pues creo que oficialmente ya soy un exiliado, ya no soy un refugiado de Twitter, sino un exiliado de Twitter. Y pues ahí nos vemos en Threads, que les guste o no, está funcionando, al menos para muchos de nosotros, también o mejor que Twitter, al menos en sus actuales circunstancias. ¿Okay? Así que pues, adiós Tweetdeck, fuiste un gran amigo, fuiste un gran compañero, herramienta, caballo de batalla, pero pues ya lo nuestro se acabó y probablemente también lo de Twitter. En fin, con esto terminamos las herramientas y ahora sí, vámonos al comercial descarado. ¿Okay? Al menos la primera parte del comercial descarado. Cursos. ¿Okay? Ya está todo programado en el Ornitobot. Los cursos para el tercer y último ciclo de ornitorrinco digital. Empezamos 27, 28 y 30 de septiembre con See Think to Care, importantísimo, en donde se construye todo. Le ha salvado la vida, le ha conseguido chamba y le ha ganado proyectos a mucha gente. De veras, no es broma. Vaya a Café y Ads y verá varios testimonios de todo esto. Salva vidas, ¿okay? El esquema See Think to Care. Y con eso abrimos todos los cursos y ya después pasamos a todo lo de MetaAds. Seguimos con el curso de administración Business Manager, el curso más importante y que todo mundo cree que no necesita hasta que tiene la crisis en las manos. No dirá que no se lo dijimos. Y después ya ejecución, el curso básico, segmentación, artes y métricas. Ya tenemos el catálogo completo, Excel de Meta, el curso intermedio, YouTube básico, TikTok básico y muy probablemente vamos a tener 2 sorpresas más. ¿Okay? Las estaremos avisando, pero muy probablemente vayamos a tener 2 cursos sorpresa también muy útiles y muy importantes. ¿Okay? Toda la información en el Ornitobot y si no, mándenos un mensajito en Instagram, en Messenger, en WhatsApp y le pasamos todos los datos. ¿Ok? Y me gustaría tocar un artículo que salió en AdParlor que creo que es útil para muchos. La diferencia entre influencer y creador. Porque hoy en día se habla mucho de los creadores y admitidamente podría utilizarse como un sinónimo de influencer y no lo es. Al menos me parece que este artículo hace un muy buen trabajo en señalar algunas diferencias fundamentales entre ambos términos y poder saber cuándo usar uno, cuándo usar otro. ¿Ok? Y me gusta la definición que tiene aquí. Por ejemplo, un influencer son individuos que tienen el poder de poder modificar las decisiones de compra de sus seguidores. Aquí viene lo importante, a través de su experiencia, su credibilidad y alcance en un nicho específico. ¿Okay? Está bien, suena bien. Y entonces, ¿qué es un creador? Bueno, los creadores de contenido son individuos que activamente crean, producen y comparten contenido original que refleja su creatividad y su experiencia, su conocimiento en un campo particular. ¿Okay? Uno pudiera pensar, o sea, suena lo mismo, pero no. Por ejemplo, y el caso que te quede aquí está perfecto. Kim Kardashian es una influencer, pero no es una creadora de contenido, porque ella no crea su propio contenido. Tiene todo un equipo de gente que se encarga de hacer todo eso. No lo hace ella. Los creadores de contenido en ese sentido son mucho más pequeños y ellos directamente están involucrados en la creación de su contenido. Pueden tener o no una comunidad o un grupo de seguidores más o menos grande o leal o no, pero ellos mismos crean su propio contenido. Por ejemplo, MrBeast es los dos. Él mismo crea su contenido y también es un influencer. ¿Ok? Son matices, pero sí es importante el tener claro cuándo es uno y cuándo es otro. ¿Okay? Muchas marcas, sobre todo hoy en día, creo que harían bien en acercarse más a creadores de contenido, sobre todo para sus artes y para algún tipo de campaña muy específica, antes que de influencers. Puede ser una relación un poquito más benéfica para ellas. Y por no hablar de también, va a requerir menos inversión de dinero también. Pero me pareció que ilustra un punto que con frecuencia se nos va, ¿ok? Así que denle una leída, está en adparlor.com, en el blog de adparlor.com, Influencers versus Creators, ¿ok? Me parece que está interesante y da para una buena conversación, ¿ok? Y listo. Con esto terminamos ya las poquitas importantes que hubo, porque la verdad es que esta semana, insisto, estuvo medio lenta. Y ahora sí, vámonos a la sección de Social Ads, que es donde les presento a el invitado de esta semana. Acompáñenme. Y amigos, es uno de los privilegios más grandes que he tenido en 8 años de estar grabando este podcast, el tener al siguiente invitado. Es una persona que probablemente me hayan escuchado hablar de ella en los cursos. Ciertamente ha sido parte del podcast. Hemos comentado algunos de sus artículos, sobre todo en la sección de Social Ads. Y sin reservas, sin la menor pena, puedo decir que es el cuate de quien más he aprendido Facebook Ads en toda mi carrera. Cuando yo empecé, su blog era la Biblia, y a la fecha lo sigue siendo. Mucho de lo que sé y que he compartido con ustedes ha sido aprendido directamente de él. Así que tengo una deuda de gratitud enorme con este hombre y es un gusto que ahora esté aquí en el podcast. ¿Ok? Así que, sin más preámbulos, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Jon Loomer. Jon, it's a pleasure to have you here. As I said, it's great that you don't understand too much Spanish because you would have been thoroughly embarrassed by my introduction.
I understand just enough to make me dangerous, and so you can't say, any bad stuff about me. I might just catch it, but
okay. No, I didn't say anything bad. In any case, I might have erred on the contrary. But anyway, as I said, thank you very much for being here. And as I always say to all our guests, what's your name and what do you do?
I'm Jon Loomer, and I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own business in meta ads education. Okay. Today is actually kind of an important day in the life of my business. I was laid off 12 years ago today. Okay. So I was someone who had never started a business, didn't know the first thing about starting one. But 12 years ago today, I was laid off. It was actually the second time in 2.5 years I've been laid off. I then created a website, launched it 12 days from now, 12 years ago, and took some time to figure out what my main focus was. But I've been primarily focused, especially over the last 10, 11 years, on meta ads education. And I think I got in at the right time. I would compare when I got into this 12 years ago to people who are AI experts now, right? It's the perfect time to be an AI expert. Like everyone's looking for that. That's what everyone was looking for 12 years ago. And honestly, my business just exploded to something I never could have imagined. And I'm still here 12 years later. So it's been good.
I'm very happy to hear that because I also started my freelance career, let's say in 2011. So the timing is it's very, very similar. And we're going to talk about that in depth a little bit in a few moments. Mm-hmm. We're certainly going to talk about how you started and why you chose meta ads, everything. But there is a couple of things that I would like to comment with you, particularly in the social ads news part of this show, where we stand. So let's just do a small recap of a few news. Number one, Instagram is testing multi-advertiser ads, which is something that they had done to a degree in the past. If you make meta campaigns, you must have seen this option about the multi-advertiser ads. So I don't think this is entirely new.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't have even known that was new. I just would have assumed that would apply to Instagram as well. Mm-hmm. Because that has been around within Ads Manager, that checkbox. So basically what it is if you opt into it, you are willing to, on one hand, if someone engages with another product ad, then a multi-advertiser carousel will appear below it. Mm-hmm. It should be related products and things like that. But you're going to be shown alongside other products, other brands, could be competitors. Some people don't like that. But I also assume it also means that you could be that initial ad that people engage with as well. And then the carousel appears below you. So yeah, that's one of those things. It's been around, but it sounds like, it's coming to Instagram as well.
Yeah, and the thing is that this new version is apparently for Reels. Okay, this new option is going to be displayed between Reels, and instead of a carousel, it's just like 4 vertical ads side by side. I mean, 2 below, and it's going to make use of the Reels and placements, which is not a bad idea. I mean, considering Reels is getting a lot of traction these days. So okay, that's good.
Yeah, and I feel like with any option these days, the way that the machine learning and the optimization works, there's nothing really to be afraid of with it. If it doesn't work, if it's not leading to conversions, your ad won't be shown there much, right? It's all about giving you the most conversions possible. That's the goal of the algorithm. So,
So if you are into multi-advertiser ads, if you are using it or choosing to use it, take a look and watch your reports, particularly the placement options, the breakdown, and see if it's working for you.
And this, maybe it's changed now, but I know originally there was really no way to see if your ads were being shown in because it's not a new placement, right?
Nope.
It was just like it's going to be shown in this format within some of these normal placements. So does this news, are you seeing that there's actually going to be a breakdown to be able to see?
No. If you, by example, notice that Reels is maybe working a little bit better, and in my experience, it has been working a little bit better these last weeks. Well, maybe it has to do with this if you are using it. But,
I feel like there's so many features now where it's a big guess.
Yeah,
as far as how much it's being used, and you just kind of have to go with it.
Yep. We'll talk about that because that's an interesting thing that's happening. Okay, so this doesn't have to do really with Meta, but I just couldn't bear myself to not talk about this because I actually, someone asked me this a few weeks ago and I assumed this happened. Now it's confirmed. This is happening.
Right.
In a bizarre twist of events, Twitter, and you're not going to make me call X. You're not. It's not going to happen. Twitter is actually stopping or dropping promoted accounts. I mean, you cannot make campaigns to get more followers on Twitter, which is pretty strange because I would think that would be sort of like the main use case for a lot of advertisers now. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that so many actions over the last 10 months to a year have been pushing brands and advertisers away.
There were many to start with to begin.
Yeah, I mean, that said, it's like if you can stomach everything that's happening with that company right now, and if you do advertise, you probably get decent results because you have such little competition, I would think. And I know that they're offering incentives and everything else. Whatever. I compare that though also to like a page like ad on Facebook. The problem, and I've never run a Twitter ad to increase followers, so I couldn't say for sure. But the way all of these seem to work is that they're going to optimize to go after people who are most likely to just follow people, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that may have been one of those. They're going to get rid of it. Although, what quality were you getting anyway?
Yeah.
With increasing your followers, probably not much. It's probably one of those things that looks good if you have 100,000 followers or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's the definition of vanity metric itself. So I know it's interesting to note that, by example, Instagram does not have any of this. Okay, so it's something that I've always praised them for not having actually. So well, Twitter is following in those steps. So good luck. Okay,
good luck indeed. Yeah.
Now we mentioned last week what's happening in Europe with the European Union and the fact that Meta is going to have to show an option to switch off personalized tracking and personalized advertising, obviously. So we're not going to talk about the details of that because we did that last week with Miguel. Hello, Miguel. But I wanted to just hear your opinion on, will there be any consequences for us on this side of the Atlantic? I mean, for advertisers, if you don't advertise in Europe, but if you do, it's pretty clear what's going to happen. But if you don't, do you think there will be consequences, fallout, something that maybe we should start not worrying, but at least thinking about?
Yeah. I mean, so actually in my community, there's someone who lives in the EU and received this alert on her phone.
Okay.
When she opened up Facebook. And it was a lot like the iOS 14 thing, where it's like, hey, just so you know, this is happening and you should want personalized ads, and this is why. And then it takes you to that ability to opt out if you want to opt out. So the first question is always going to be what percent, and also you can't avoid it. It's like the iOS thing where they force you to go through it.
Yeah.
But the question is going to be, how many people are going to opt out? And it's probably going to be a lot. But the other thing is going to be, so what are the caveats to this? Like, right, with iOS 14, Meta figured out a way. It freaked everybody out for a while. And honestly, we had some pretty bad results for a while, but it seems to kind of stabilize and be okay. With this, I will say that, it's a little concerning. It's kind of a step beyond iOS 14, probably, as far as I know. And truthfully, it's probably going to be the future of what's to come. Like, that's going to continue to spread. I mean, I'll also be curious to see how consumers react ultimately. Like, always sounds great. No, don't track me. I want to turn this off. And then they see terrible ads all day because you still see ads. You're not going to stop seeing ads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was about to comment on that. If people think they see bad ads right now, wait until you have personalized advertising, and then you're going to really see bad ads. I mean, so
yeah. And you may know better than I do on this. I assume this is kind of like iOS 14 in that if they have engagement that happened within the app, Meta can still have ads target you based on that type of engagement, right?
Apparently, the way that this was written, apparently Europe is going after that also. Okay? So in that respect, it may be even worse than iOS 14. Okay?
Right.
Because apparently these guys are going against every kind of personalized tracking, even the ones in-app. Of course, pixel and external websites are obviously off limits. I mean, that's the first thing that goes. But apparently they are trying to avoid any personalized tracking, even within the app. So,
that would be crazy.
Yep.
I think long-term, let's just imagine that the entire world went to whatever these settings are and it just removes all personalized targeting. It sounds scary, but at the same time, if everybody has that same kind of penalty to deal with, the market kind of figures it out, right? Like, first of all, Meta and everyone else is going to find something to, whether it's AI, machine learning or something to sort all this out. The other thing is, a lot of advertisers probably can get out. They're going to spend less. Costs are going to come down. It's going to even out. Like, if ads don't work, then people will just stop advertising. But I don't think if it ends up taking us 10 years back or 15 years back to the way things used to be, well, people used to advertise in very different ways 10 and 15 years ago, and people found success. So it's kind of like, it's too bad that maybe we'll lose some of these abilities to target and whatnot. I'm not overly concerned about it. It's going to be one of those things where it's going to be a mad dash, a scramble, and probably some frustration for a while, but we figure it out eventually. That's the way it's going to be.
And you have to remember that this only applies if you run campaigns in Europe. If you don't, it's strictly academical, at least for the time being. And I agree that I don't know if we can, that this might be maybe worth another invitation to the podcast to talk about this, but it's a trend. I don't see, for example, the US or Latin America following this trend, okay? Europe, in that regard, plays with another set of rules, which is, okay for them. But I don't see these kind of things happening to this degree on this side of the Atlantic. At least not in the next 4 or 5 years. I'm not sure.
Maybe. I mean, we've seen something similar in individuals, not again, similar, but in individual states.
California, I believe.
US, in California, right. Related to privacy. Not, again, I don't think it's to that extreme, but it is a hot topic here. And I think the other thing's going to be, once it's executed there and, we kind of see how it goes down, I could absolutely, if it goes smoothly, right, and people seem to appreciate it as consumers, I can absolutely see it happening elsewhere, US, other places, but we'll see. I mean, that's the trend. No matter what we do, that is the trend, is more privacy. And I would not be at all surprised if something similar happened in lots of countries within the year, honestly.
Okay. Within a year, I mean, that's a short time frame.
Government moves slowly, so who knows? But
exactly. I'm betting on that. That we have at least 4 or 5 years before we have to worry about that. But I don't know. As you said, let's see. Let's wait and see what happens. Okay. So those were the news regarding social ads. And now we can move on to the main event of the night. Okay. So John, that's the main event is you, of course.
Oh.
So you already started talking about when you started, okay? And as you mentioned, you were laid off for the second time in a couple of years. And then you found yourself building a website and, learning about Facebook ads at the time. That's how they were called. How did you end up in Facebook ads? I mean, why that? Why? We have to remember that 10, 12 years ago, this industry, this whole thing was growing. It was barely starting. Yeah. So why, of all the things that you could look into, you chose Facebook ads? Why that?
I think that story starts in 2007. So I worked this is one of the jobs I did not get laid off from. I worked for the National Basketball Association, which was an amazing job working for the NBA. And one of the things we did in 2007 was partnered with Facebook.
Okay.
So that was when they were the Facebook, and they had just opened up to everyone beyond high school and college, because originally it was just college and high school students.
Yeah, 2007 is before the dinosaurs.
Right. And there are 50 million people on the platform at the time. And so once we partnered with Facebook, I created a profile. And once I created that profile, it was like this whole world, like everybody else, right? I was someone as a kid, I moved around a lot, and I lost contact with all these friends from different parts of the country. And the most amazing part of Facebook to me at the time was for personal use, is like, I'm reconnecting with these people I hadn't talked to in 20 years, and that was amazing. So I fell in love with the platform. But from a business standpoint, created a Facebook group before you had Facebook pages that I helped manage for the NBA. And they created an app for us, Facebook did, before you could create your own app. So I basically got very comfortable with the platform. The final job I had in the real world was as VP of Strategic Marketing for American Cancer Society.
Okay.
And so that was a lot of digital marketing stuff. It was all considered very experimental at the time.
Yes, like 2011, for sure.
And that's when it ended. So it was 2009 to 2011. So it was, it was blogging, it was online communities, it was Facebook, it was Twitter, it was things like that. And so those are the things I knew about because of everything I had done professionally over the last 5 years or so. So once I got laid off and I started this website, originally I just wrote about a lot of stuff that was social media focused, right? So I was talking about Google Plus, I was talking about Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook, and a lot of privacy stuff related to Facebook. And that's honestly some of the stuff that drove the most traffic. So that was the first thing that happened, is like, I got big traffic from stuff that was just like Facebook privacy related. And then it was the spring of 2012 where Facebook timeline for pages came out.
Okay, yeah.
And when that happened, I wrote a whole bunch of articles about that, like all those various changes. So I started at that point to be more and more focused on Facebook marketing. And in the meantime, I was, again, understand, I didn't have a job.
No, I know. I know that story from a first-person perspective, John. What you are saying sounds very, very familiar.
So, and I'm the main breadwinner in the house. So I was running Facebook ads, and luckily back then you could run Facebook ads and spend close to nothing and make an impact. So I was spending seriously at one point, I was spending $1 per day. And when I was doing that, I was also writing about the things I was doing and seeing with these Facebook ads. And then I started realizing more and more that was driving traffic. And it made so much sense eventually. I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out, but it's like, well, if people are invested in something and to make Facebook ads, make sure that they work well for them, they might actually pay me for something. So that my first product then became like, I had a couple of just bad products that wouldn't scale initially. Like I could review their Facebook page or review, I don't even remember what, like their ads, their campaign or something like that. Then eventually I created my first training, which was on Power Editor.
Oh God, that sure brings back some memories. But the Power Editor, if you are hearing this podcast and you know what the Power Editor is, you've been in this show for too long.
and truthfully, it was like perfect because everyone knew that if you wanted to do the more advanced stuff, you had to use Power Editor.
Yep.
But it was extremely buggy and confusing and frustrating, which was the perfect storm for me, right?
Yep.
So when I created that first training, everything just exploded. And that was the start of my business. For the most, like truly being a business that would sustain was when I launched that first course.
Yeah, I hear you, bro, because as I said, this story sounds very familiar because on another time frame, maybe on another way, it's the same thing that happened to me. Power Editor was the best thing that would happen to many of us. Mm-hmm. Okay, so so you started about this whole thing, and you realized, there's a business to be made here. I mean, this is something I could do. I assume that you must have found that you enjoyed it a little. I mean, I can tell from all this time that you really found something that was at least a little bit enjoyable.
Yeah, look, I'm a baseball fan. There's a connection to this in that I'm a big stats nerd, right?
Okay.
And raised my kids baseball fans, and it's a really important part of our lives. So like that part of it, with the stats and predictability and like, what does this mean? And stats that mean something and stats that don't. And all that stuff is you can tie into marketing and advertising and strategy and, not necessarily doing the same strategy everybody else is doing. So there's a loose connection there between being a baseball fan and marketing and Facebook ads. So I think that's part of what got me interested in it in the first place. There's also a matter of like, the one thing I felt comfortable doing was writing. And again, perfect timing is like, if you wanted to write a blog, write a blog. Videos, you didn't have to do YouTube. You didn't have to do short form video. Obviously, it wasn't a thing yet. So I just wrote like crazy. I wrote 350 blog posts, I think the first year. I think I actually started doing an audit a couple of weeks ago, and I wrote like 600 blog posts those first 2 years. It was so much. But it was all that writing that I was able to find my voice and find what it is I wanted to write about and, what it was that people wanted to read as well. So that was a critical time the first couple of months. But there's a certain amount of it that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed creating the content. I enjoyed talking about strategy and the numbers. So it was fun.
And we are very glad that you enjoyed it because it was... I don't know exactly how I found your blog, because obviously that's how I first learned about you. It must have been, I don't know, maybe on Twitter or I don't know how. Honestly, I have no clue right now how I ended up there, but I did end up there. And it was a godsend because at more or less at 2011, that's where the self-service Facebook ad platforms was opened around the world. Okay. I also started doing this and I realized quickly that, this thing works. If you do it right, this thing moves the needle where it's supposed to. Okay. So basically the blog started it all. Okay. That was the foundation of everything that came later.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay. And I assume, because of what you told me, that you must have written daily at that time. For a couple of years, you must have written every single day.
Yeah. I mean, very close to it. On average, it was close to that because it was like 600 blog posts over 2 years. So it was a lot. And so much of it, it wasn't like a planned strategy, right? It wasn't like I've got this long list. I'm going to write this day and this other day. It's partly because there was so much going on then. Yeah. There was so much to write about, you know?
Everything was new.
Everything was new. And there was so much confusion. People wanted to know more about it and wanted to start advertising themselves. And it was the Wild West in that it was really, if you knew what you were doing, you could do crazy stuff really inexpensively. It was very profitable to run Facebook ads.
Yeah, I mean, things that you cannot do anymore. It has to be said because a lot of things have changed. And that's also something that I want to talk about. You've written about it for a long while. You've spoken about it in your videos right now. You've been in this business for so long, like 12 years, if we start counting from 2011. And literally, you have seen it change in front of you. And something that a lot of people have trouble dealing with, I've seen it, I'm pretty sure you too have, is the need to change and to adapt to all the modifications, all the updates, all the new stuff that, whether you want it or not, you're going to get from the platform and the environment. Because we have to contend with the platform itself and the environment in which we operate. iOS 14, by example, that's something that nobody planned. But we didn't want that, but that's what happened. So how have you learned to adapt to all of that? Because it's not easy. You know, I'm speaking for myself, but if you have done this right, I'm pretty sure people who are hearing us can, testify. It's not easy.
Yeah, truthfully, I had some hard lessons. So a weird thing happens when you create a business you've never created before. You didn't really plan to create a business. I did not. It exploded like beyond anything I ever could have imagined. And then I felt like, well, okay, I need to keep doing things this way to maintain it or grow and whatnot. And also my kids were young. So like a big part of this was I want to maintain this business so I can keep, spending more time with my kids and coach their baseball teams and everything else.
Yeah.
So there was this period of time where everything just kept churning. Everything kept working. So whether we're talking about Facebook ads, social media evolution, online business evolution, whatnot, it's all kind of related. But I kind of tried to keep doing things the way I always had. And wasn't getting into short form video, long form at all. And I think really it was around the time of COVID where things started to take a downward turn for me. Because I still wasn't evolving. I was still trying to live off of everything else that got me to that point. And truthfully, I really wasn't creating as much. I wasn't blogging as much. And it's funny because my business basically reached this make or break moment at the same time my life with my family was about to come to a big change. So like it was end of last summer. So it was about a year ago right now.
Yeah.
My oldest son was already in college. My middle son was about to move on to college. My youngest son, who I was coaching baseball at the time, which took up a ton of my time, he was about to move on to high school. So I was about to have a whole bunch of time on my hands to figure this out. And this is also at the time where my business was, if I don't get this turned around fast, I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So the big part of that was like reassessing what I was doing and doing some different things and doing some things that made me really uncomfortable. And that started with short form video. So for me, it's been a big year of adapting and trying new things. I've published at least one short form video every day of 2023 this year. So that's been fun to grow with. I've tried to embrace AI and everything happening there. I've got a chat bot on my website so you can get quick answers. And it's understanding that all of those things change. And then also, in the advertising world, you talk about iOS 14, but it's the fact that everything is more like you don't structure a campaign the way we did 5, 6, 7 years ago anymore.
Not one bit.
And there was so much concern about what's the audience I'm targeting, which is I got to isolate these interests and behaviors and which ones work better, or should I use this lookalike audience or that lookalike audience or this custom audience, and like all of this split testing and stuff to figure out the best audience. Now it's like everything is about going broad. It's all Facebook's going to go broad anyway, even if you don't tell them to, because they've got advantage custom audience, advantage lookalike audience, advantage detailed targeting. And so that whole thing has changed. Obviously, attribution has been more challenging. And a lot of it right now is just like kind of embracing and accepting that much more of this is in Meta's hands than ours now. Yeah. Whereas before, like so much of it is like us, like being really strategic about how we're going to set all these little things up and pulling all these levers and these settings and things that now just aren't that important.
I have jokingly say in my trainings that we are like the high priests of the algorithm now. Okay, you make these offerings of arts and videos and everything and say, please, algorithm, bring us your bounty. Okay,
exactly.
So from what I'm hearing, 2020, 22 during the pandemic were not exactly the easiest of years. Were not the easiest of times.
No.
It's very funny because on some other places, that's turned out to be like the best years of our lives.
Right.
I'm wondering, why do you think that happened? Because I would have thought that it would have been like a boom for you because everybody wanted to had to learn about meta ads and everything. So what happened?
Yeah. So this is the way I remember that time.
Okay.
So I was, again, coaching this baseball team, which was taking up a lot of my time, first of all. When all this went down, when everything went on lockdown in the US, our baseball team was about to take a trip down to Arizona. So that was the entire focus on, should we go? Shouldn't we go? Are they going to cancel it? What is happening? Okay. And I remember I sent out an email to my entire list, just kind of get us, because I knew this was starting to happen, everything with COVID, but I didn't completely grasp what was going on. So it was like a check-in, like, how are you doing? What's going on with your business? How is this impacting you? By the way, this is what I'm dealing with right now. We're thinking about doing this trip. I was flooded with emails from people in Italy and Spain and people who were seeing the worst of COVID at that time and just warning me to take this seriously, that it's awful. People are losing their businesses, people are losing their lives. And it was really eye-opening to me. And the problem I had is that, first of all, it changed my entire approach to what am I going to do this year? Like all the courses I was thinking I was going to do, I'm not going to do any of those courses now. They don't make any sense.
Okay.
Second of all, I know I'm not speaking for everyone here. I could not bring myself to want to sell to people when I know they're struggling. And I knew that a lot of people were struggling. So the first course that I actually created had nothing to do with Facebook ads. It was cheap. It was just about, because I know everybody was working remotely. How do you get online and, stream like webinars and go Facebook Live and all that kind of stuff. And it was really just my way of creating something to make a little bit of money while also hoping that, I could help people without making them spend a bunch, And that was really my mental hurdle through much of that time. And again, not to keep bringing up the baseball coach stuff, but I was constantly worried about, should we be practicing? Should we be playing games? And keeping everybody safe? And like all these parents are like, oh, we should travel to this tournament or that tournament. It was extremely stressful. So I'm going through all of that, not really wanting to ask people for money. And that started that kind of downward trend for my business. But make no mistake, there's a certain matter of like anxiety and probably depression and being stuck in your house all day and all those other things that happen,
I get it.
That contributed to all that as well. So, yep.
No, I'm asking you because, as I said, for many of us, it went the completely opposite way. There was a big boom here in Mexico and Latin America because everybody needed to know about how to use this and everything. So, thanks for sharing that, Jon. It really makes sense. Now, one thing they wouldn't forgive me if I didn't ask this following question. The current state of things, the social ads business, particularly meta ads, which is what obviously best. Where are we right now? And where do you see things moving on in the next 2-3 years? Let's not go any farther down the road. 2 or 3 years is a long time in this business.
Yeah. I think what we've seen over the last several years is it's always been a continuation of a trend.
That's right.
And the trend we're at right now is automation.
That's right.
It's AI, it's machine learning. It's, we're doing less as advertisers. The advertisers is still important. I think that's something to keep in mind because you still need to know like how to avoid breaking rules and getting your account shut down. You still need to know how to get these accounts set up properly to work with clients. And there's so many little things that just not anybody can jump in and create a campaign. That said, once you know how to create a campaign, a lot of it is relying on the algorithm now. And I think it's going to be interesting when it comes to AI for ads and for everything else, because, we're starting to see it a little bit with copy with Facebook, because they will recommend, variations of your copy to you that are kind of not so much AI generated, but AI influenced. I mean, you're going to start seeing more and more AI generated images, AI generated videos and copy in these ads, more automation and machine learning of just Meta just throwing a bunch of stuff together and kind of trusting it. I mean, I think that's the continual trend we're going to see, which is also on a crash course with all this stuff we're talking about related to privacy and tracking. Because all of the automation and machine learning works great as long as there's data. If Meta loses data, then I almost wonder if we start taking a step back where now advertisers are jumping in and taking control of more things again, So it's going to be interesting. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think those are the topics that will be coming up, over the coming years.
Okay. One thing that has always surprised me is in this discussion about privacy versus advertising, and something that I never or seldom, if ever, I hear mentioned is the fact that personalized advertising is what's keeping a lot of particularly small businesses around the world, all over the world, moving and growing. And nobody seems to be talking about that, about the consequences that will have. And it's not going to be pretty, okay? That's a consequence or a counterbalance to the privacy discussion that I seldom see anybody talking about that. And, during the pandemic, at least here in Mexico and in a lot of countries, that's what kept a lot of people afloat. That's what kept a lot of little businesses afloat, okay? That made people being able to still earn money and keeping food on the table. And I'm amazed that nobody talks about that, okay? Nobody mentions that. And you know it as well as I do. A lot of SMBs in the States and all over the world have built their businesses around this. And if this stops working, oh boy.
Yeah, no, it's true. But first of all, it all comes down to a basic misunderstanding of the role of advertising in our lives. Like people seem to think that they should be able to use any service and never see an ad, but use that service for free. It's kind of ridiculous. And that's not the future of Facebook or Instagram or Meta generally. The future may be, you might get ads that you care even less about than you do right now. I mean, the people who waste all their time every day commenting on ads they don't want to see, they're going to spend so much more time doing that. But I mean, it starts with a basic misunderstanding of the rule of advertising in our lives, because advertising is always going to be around us. But it's also forgetting that, small, medium, large businesses all need advertising to survive. There's a purpose for it. They've got to drive people to their place of business, to their product, to their website, to the things they own. I once saw someone who commented on something on an ad saying that he will not buy any product from anyone if he sees an ad from them in his newsfeed.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that post, and it was like, what?
But again, it's just really unrealistic expectation of how the world works. It's like, what do you expect these small businesses to do? Like, they can't show you an ad to tell you that they've got a sale or to show you their product. So anyway, there's a lot of that. But absolutely, I think whenever these big changes happen, whenever, it's iOS 14 or what's happening in the EU, I honestly think big business, those of us who know what we're doing, will be fine. The companies that'll be hurt the most are going to be the small businesses.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's a concern. Okay. So on a similar note, you have 12 years of experience under your belt using meta ads, whatever, I guess in most forms or fashion. What would you suggest? Two main suggestions to all the people who's hearing us all across Latin America, all across the world that are operating, planning ad campaigns. The two things that you would like to share, if they're going to take away something from this podcast, take only these two things.
Keep it simple, first of all. So you probably don't even have to worry about targeting, honestly. If you don't know like what interest or custom audience or whatever to pick, don't pick any. Just target a country or an area, a local area, because your ad will do the targeting. So that makes the copy and creative that you put there all the more important.
Okay.
Just keep in mind that Meta's trying to go broad no matter what, even if you provide a bunch of things in targeting. So don't overcomplicate that. Keep it simple. I'm going to apply this to everything. So this is one step, but keep it simple when it comes to placements. Just use all placements in most cases. And whenever possible, optimize for a conversion.
Right.
There are weaknesses in the machine learning, in the algorithm, the way the ad's distributed, because Meta's always trying to get you the most of that thing that you asked for. Do not assume that if you ask for link clicks, that it will lead to conversions.
Yeah. Traffic.
Yep. Traffic or engagement. Don't think, oh, if I get a whole bunch of people commenting and sharing, that'll lead to purchases. The reality is all it does then is it takes advantage of weaknesses where there are bots, fake profiles, people who just comment on stuff all the time or who click on everything, whatever it is. You don't want that, right? So whenever possible, optimize for the final step that you want more than anything else, which is probably some sort of purchase. Make sure that's your performance goal.
Okay. You heard it here. Okay. You heard it here. And you've heard me saying something very similar to this. Okay. Now, we are we're getting to the happy part, to the fun part of this podcast, what we call the shameless plug. Okay. So, Jon, feel free to plug whatever you want, whatever you need. So the audience learns, knows where to find you, what can you offer to them, how you can make their lives easier, better, or happier.
Look, I got to be honest with you. I feel like at no point in my 12 years have I created better content. So if you just want, first of all, free stuff. If you just want free stuff, my blog, I update it twice a week on a schedule. I'm writing about everything imaginable to keep you informed there. There's a chat bot on my website. So jonloomer.com on my website that's trained on my content that if you have questions for it, it will do everything it can to answer. So that's the first thing is my website. But videos, so whether it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, my short form videos, every day I got new videos going everywhere. So if you just want a way in to be educated and learn more about meta ads and the ways I can help you, there's some really good free ways right there. Beyond that, I have a paid community that's been my baby for just 9 years now, the Power Hitters Club. And if you go to jonloomer.com/PHC, so it includes a private community. So other like-minded advertisers, you can ask them questions, get help. I'm there. But also I do weekly webinars, keep you updated. I'm close to my 500th weekly webinar. That shows you how long that's been going on. We do a strategy session every Tuesday. So it's like this big Zoom meeting where usually 8 to 10 of us are in there and just talking about what we're seeing and running into this problem, help one another. Get access to my training there as well and get discounts on one-on-ones. So yeah, that's my shameless plug, jonloomer.com/PHC.
Okay. And also you have your trainings and your one-on-one sessions. Even if you don't join the PHC, the training is available there. And your consulting sessions are also there if you want one.
Right. Yeah. The one-on-ones you can always set up with me as well. So I have 45-minute sessions that I do every Monday and share your screen. You can walk through, what your goals are and the obstacles you're facing and come out with a strategy and how you should approach it.
Okay. Wow. Jon, I would love to have a couple of more hours to talk about everything I would like to talk about with you, but we are running out of time, and I know that it's Friday and you're busy, you have a family to take care of. So I'm very, very grateful. I thank you really, because I can say that there is no one that I have learned more about this industry and what I do than from you. And I'm really, really grateful. And I'm happy to have you here and to share you with all the people who hear the podcast. And I know you're my role model, particularly in the video creation department, because like we say here, I want to be like you when I grow up. Because it has been a challenge to jump into the short video bandwagon. I've done my best, but I'm still miles from where I want to be. And you're showing the way. You're showing the way, man. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you again. And I hope this is not the last time. I hope next time we can go deeper into some more technical subjects. But
I feel like we could have an entire episode talking about short form video, because
definitely.
That's been quite a journey for me over the last year, because that's something that scared the heck out of me. I did not want to do it. And it's something I know, I understand the struggle for anyone who struggles getting into that.
Yeah, we're not kids anymore. And it's, I don't know, it's a generation thing or age thing, but it's not the simplest of things. Blogging was a lot easier.
Oh, yeah. You can hide behind, like, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you changed out of your pajamas this morning, you took a shot, it doesn't matter. You just write. But yeah, you got to turn on the video. Then how's my lighting and how to have good quality microphone and all this stuff. It's tougher.
Yep, definitely. Jon, thank you very much. I'm honored. And as I said, I hope this is not the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much to you and to the listeners for doing this in English. Man, I wish I could have done this in Spanish, but that wouldn't have gone too well. But no, I really appreciate that.
No, don't worry. Actually, the podcast, we put it on YouTube. And if you're struggling with the English at any point, we're going to put captions on the YouTube versions, Spanish captions. So I guess that's where you want to go if you want to listen to this with a little more of ease. So, Jon, big hug from Mexico City. If you ever drop by, please let me know. And the first 2 rounds of margaritas are on me.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay.